Well, once lauded as a rainbow nation, South Africa is rife with many forms of cultural, class and racial discrimination. So on this Zero Discrimination Day, we unpack the issue of cultural discrimination. Professor Sihawukele Ngubane is the head of African Studies at the University of KZN, and he joins us now from our studios in Durban. Thanks very much, Professor, for your time. I mean, discrimination takes place in so many forms against women, the disabled, on the basis of race. Talk to us about the specific issue of cultural discrimination.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this discussion. I think this is a very sensitive topic to discuss on this Zero Discrimination Day. I think it is a very difficult thing to address at this point in time because it is structural. It is also political driven, it's historical, and it is systematic because we have been categorized according to our racial division. And more so from racial, we as indigenous people of Africa, we are also separated by our ethnicity. Beyond ethnicity, we are separated by our clans. Like I come from Ngubane clan, and I separate myself from other people from other clans. So this is something that is structural. It is something that is going to live with us, but we must work towards it. And wherever we are, we must make a difference to avoid discrimination. We cannot end discrimination, but it is a process if we are all committed to live side by side with other cultures.
Yeah, and the thing about
secondly,
Professor, if you'd allow me to just butt in for a second, the thing about discrimination, from what I'm gauging from what you're saying, is that it's not just an uncomfortable thing being discriminated against, but it can lead to violence. It can lead to a loss of life.
It's true. I think the other problem is that we are misinformed of other cultures, and we also have fear of the unknown. That is why we don't want to expose ourselves to other people's cultures, because we feel that if we do, one will be offending some people if we don't practice their cultures in the expected manner, and therefore we decide to stay away from other people. So I think the best way to do it is just to expose yourself to other people's cultures, and also we need to accept other people's cultures because the cultures are informed by their belief systems and they are also informed by their value systems. And that is why we have a different worldview between the West and the African worldview. And that at its own create classes of discrimination.
And Professor, you talk about, we need to live side by side, we need to understand each other's and appreciate each other's diversity more. But the issue with that is that there are people who do not want to open their minds. There are people who are happy to live in a bubble, and they don't see their viewpoints perhaps as discrimination. And that's where the challenge comes in, I suppose.
Yes, I think that's the challenge. But if we are saying today we are celebrating Zero Discrimination Day, I think it's a wake-up call to all of us, and it is also a reminder to all of us that we belong to a human race, that we need to live together, we need to acknowledge one another, we need to accept one another, and take different cultures or the diversity of our cultures as a plus to us as South Africans, because if you go outside South Africa, you'll find that there is no problem of cultural discrimination, because people like in Germany, they've got a single culture, they've got a single language. If you go to Japan, they speak their own language, Japanese, and their culture is. But here in South Africa, we are very unique. We have flavor of different cultures, even amongst ourselves as African people. The Swatis will have their own culture. The Zulus have their own, the Xhosa people have got their own culture. So we can put flavor if we learn from other people's culture. We were chatting here before we were on air that there are minor things such as time. You see, when you have an appointment, if you are an African, you are saying, we'll meet at 9. That 9 o'clock is not specific right on time, which is 9 o'clock. But you are saying, I'll see you around 9 o'clock, 10 minutes or 10 minutes after. But other cultures would expect 9 o'clock to be 9 o'clock. I was saying that there are instances like during weddings. If everything starts on time, that marriage won't last. This is the belief that African people believe. So there are some external forces that will cause a delay, and we must learn to accept that. We must learn to tolerate that because it is informed by our forefathers who introduced us to the way we should behave, because culture is divided into material culture and a non-material culture, where we look into our behaviors as being emulating what was in the past. We are aware that culture evolves, culture is dynamic, but a nation without a culture is no nation, because culture defines us who we are. I am Zulu speaking, I speak the language isiZulu, and already I will be discriminated by speaking isiZulu. And also, besides that fact that I speak that language, which is different from other people, even our colors, there are people who are fairer than others. Like I'm black, and I can be discriminated just because I'm black, and more black than the other one. There are some categories, like some people say there is blackness and there is reasonable black. So there are a lot of divisions that leads us to discriminate one another in terms of culture.
Absolutely.
And in terms of our religion.
Yeah, Professor, thank you so much for your time. I think you and I can go on chatting about this for some time to come, but we've run out of time, unfortunately. Thank you so much for that important perspective there. That was the head of African Studies at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, Professor Sihawukele Ngubane.